I'm recording. So thank you for joining us tonight. We had some technical difficulties and now we are off to a running start. We have a lot of information to get through tonight, so I am going to dive right in. Our topic tonight is how to choose the right realtor. Honestly, I think one of the best topics of our seminar series. So I'm excited and I have a lot of information to share. This is, the subtopics are going to be what you should expect from your realtor and what to look for in a realtor. And we will talk about both buying and selling. So a little bit first about who I am. That's me. I'm Kristen Mason Coreas. I am owner and lead realtor for the Homes by Mason team. And I am a top producing realtor in the area. I am top 1% nationwide. I am best of Zillow and things like that. So I have been in the business for 10 years and my team does about 30 to 40 transactions a year. So I enjoy what I do a lot, and I'm excited to do these seminars and help people learn about the process of buying and selling. So first and foremost, a realtor should be your professional consultant. We do much more than help people find homes or stick a sign in the yard, right? So there's a lot more behind the scenes, and Rebecca actually joined our team last year and was new to real estate, and she has learned very quickly that there's so much that goes on behind the scenes that people don't realize. And so we are professionals and we are experts, and there are lots of potholes and lots of things to navigate through this process. And so we are your guide through that process to get you through without falling into a pothole, which often can and does happen more times than we like to admit. So the process starts with listening to your wants and needs. And this is for both buyers or sellers. So these things here apply to if you're buying or selling. So once we know what your wants and needs are, then we are able to establish a strategy for you. Whether that's buying or selling, we're going to take what you tell us and then put you on the right path, okay? And hold your hand through that path. And sometimes the path changes as we go. And that's our job, again, to always make sure that we are keeping in sync with your wants and needs. And also, we're going to explain the steps of the process to you ahead of time. So answer those questions up front, like we're doing here in our seminar series, so that you know what to expect through the process. We will also connect you to trusted vendors. So because we sell 30 to 40 homes a year, we have relationships with all the different types of vendors involved with buying or selling a home. Home inspectors, electricians, title, carpenters, painters, carpet guys. So we have long-standing relationships with these people, and they like to keep in good standing with us because they know that we will often have lots of people to refer them to. So we are able to connect you to our trusted vendors and ultimately set you up for success, right? That's really the goal and what a good realtor should do for you. So on buying, we'll talk a little bit about specifically the buying process. So in my opinion and how we do things at Homes by Mason, it should start with a buyer consultation. Now, not every realtor does do this. So sometimes people will make a phone call, see something online and say, click the button and say, I want to see this home. And some realtors will jump to show you that home. That is not, in my opinion, the best way to start the process. The best way, in my opinion and in my experience, is to do a buyer consultation. In that consultation, we will sit down either in person or virtually and find out your wants and needs, right? And again, as a buyer, once we know your wants and needs, then a good realtor will be able to identify the right homes and the right locations, okay? Because there may be neighborhoods or locations that don't have houses on the market right now that fit your wants and needs, and we, as realtors who know the market, will be able to point you in that direction. So then in that buyer consultation, we will also share with you the most current statistics and trends that we are seeing in our local market. And that is part of setting you up for success so that you know what to expect. You know what's going on in the market, whether it's a competitive market, if it's a seller's market, if it's a buyer's market. We'll tell you that in the buyer consultation. We're also going to walk you through the steps of the process. So this graphic here is an overview of the steps to buying a home. We'll walk you through that, talk about each step. Again, answer your questions, make sure you know what to expect. There is legal stuff. So we are dealing with contracts. There's a contract with your realtor and there's a contract to purchase the home. And we will talk through those contracts and the legal stuff and answer your questions about that. And again, out of the gate, sit down and say, what other questions do you have? What more do you need to know before we get started and to put you on that path to success? So that is a buyer consultation, which should be the first step with a good realtor. Then there's a search process. So we know these days that everyone pretty much starts their process online. And a realtor is going to let you do that. So there's lots of consumer sites out there that you all have access to and you can use to search for homes. So go ahead and do that. We also, Keller Williams has a fantastic app that they are developing and always improving that we can provide as well. So Keller Williams, any Keller Williams agent will have a Keller Williams app that they can provide to you. That will be another tool you can use to search from. And the realtor has access to the proprietary multiple listing service. So wherever you are buying a home, there will be that proprietary system for realtors that we have access to that is real live time information. If someone puts a property in the market right now and hits enter, I can see it right now. And so we have access to that and we will set you up on a search for that, a good realtor. So you should be getting emails from your realtor. Now, if they have listened well to your wants and needs, those emails should not be full of junk, right? They should be homes that meet your criteria. Initially, I do like to set that criteria a bit broad in order to help you see what's out there. And so that you don't, so you know what your options are, right? So I might start broader, but then as you start to go through those searches and identify what you like and don't like, then we're able to narrow down that search criteria and make sure that what you're getting in your email is a narrowed list of properties that do ideally meet your wants and needs. So the market knowledge piece is what I touched on earlier. Again, a realtor with good market knowledge will be able to identify locations that may not have homes on the market that may match your wants and needs. And if there's nothing on the market in those locations, a good realtor will go above and beyond to find homes that are coming on the market, perhaps in those locations. So we will network with other agents and say, we have a buyer looking for this. Do you have anything that meets this criteria? And we will even go out and knock on doors sometimes in a neighborhood that a client has identified and say, we have a client who'd love to live in this neighborhood. Are you or one of your neighbors thinking about selling? And we can also send direct mail. So these are things that a good realtor will do to help with that search process, to cut that process down and find something for you, even if and when inventory is low, which is one of the challenges we have been experiencing for a long time. So then when you're buying, you're going to go on showings with your realtor. And a good realtor should be pointing out the good, the bad, and the ugly about a property. So oftentimes buyers get sidetracked by the shiny stainless steel appliances or the beautiful granite. And as a realtor, we should be looking at things like the ceiling and the floor and looking for water stains and looking at the systems for signs of age and pointing out, again, things that maybe don't meet your wants and needs or your criteria. So for example, when a buyer says, I don't want to be on a busy road and a house backs up to a busy road, I'm going to make sure I point that out to them to say, you told me this and this is the situation. I just want to make sure you're aware of that. And, you know, ultimately you might still be interested in that property, but we want to be thorough and make sure we point out all of those things. Also, we're going to help you choose the right homes to look at. So sometimes people will choose 10 homes to look at a time, and really that is too many homes to look at once. It's really not a good idea. Now, sometimes if you're coming in from out of the area, that's unavoidable. However, I would say the max number of homes that you would want to see at one time is about 5. So beyond that, it starts to get really exhausting and the houses start to blend together. So when you have a really long list of homes, a good realtor will look at that list and choose the 5 best ones, again, based upon the wants and needs and based upon their market knowledge and their ability to see the fine print, so to speak, or see the details in the photos that we are able to, since we look at these all day, every day. Then once you find the home that you want to purchase, a realtor will provide comps for you to help you determine the offer to make, and not only provide them to you, but review them with you and talk you through how to evaluate those comps. Again, this is what we know how to do, and we and you all as consumers don't know how to assess the comps. So helping you through that process is another thing that a good realtor should do. And then when it comes to writing the contract, advising you on how to write a winning contract. So, you know, anyone can just write any type of contract, but a good realtor will be able to write a winning contract and discuss with you the various terms of the contract and the different ways that you can make a competitive offer. And then a realtor's job is, of course, to negotiate the best price and terms for you. And we're going to talk later about how to know when you've got a good negotiator working for you. So then we've got the selling process. So, selling process. So a realtor working for you to help you sell your home is, again, first and foremost, going to establish strategy for you. So, you know, timing is important, right? So if you call me today and tell me that you want to sell your home, you know, we could just say, okay, we're going to put it on the market whenever you're ready. That is not the best strategy. Okay. So considering what is going on in the market, looking at the calendar and considering, starting with, okay, what needs to be done to the home. So that's where we do start. So a realtor will walk through your home and take a look and assess possible improvements and repairs to make that will help you get the best price for your home. Once a realtor does that, then a realtor should be able to help determine the timeline it will take for you to make any recommended improvements and repairs, and then around that decide, okay, this is when we will list, and usually avoid things like holidays, for example. So listing on a holiday weekend is not a good strategy because buyers are more focused on the holiday than they are buying a property. So that's an example of strategy and timing. And then they're going to determine a pricing strategy as well. So there are different aspects to that where you might want to price differently, again, depending upon if the market is increasing or if the market is decreasing, depending upon the trends in the market. So a good realtor is going to do all of those things on the front end. And then we get into stage 1. So stage 1 is what I refer to as preparing the home for the market. So this is largely the owners doing work to prepare for the market after we've established the strategy with you. And the realtor during that time is going to, again, connect you with trusted vendors to help you do that work. A good realtor is going to check on your progress to make sure that you are keeping on timeline for that listing date, that best listing date that they discussed with you, and sometimes even lend a hand. So certainly me and my team members have been known to roll up our sleeves and go over to the house and lend a hand if push comes to shove and we are off timeline, and if you just need a hand packing some boxes or
clean out their attic.
Yes, Rebecca has cleaned out an attic for clients. So a good realtor will go above and beyond for sure. And then also we'll be watching the market activity, because markets can shift and change, on a moment's notice, of course. And so, perhaps we had a great strategy and timeline in place, and then something changes in the market. And we might then advise that perhaps we want to list sooner or list later based upon what's happening in the market. So, and the price that we had discussed initially also might change depending upon what's happening in the market. Sometimes I see homes get listed at a certain price, and I look at it and I wonder if that listing agent was aware of a home that listed like the week before. It's like sometimes I see this price and I'm like, yeah, that was the price a month ago, but not after last week. It happened last week in the market. So a realtor does need to be paying attention all the time and staying on top of that market activity. And a realtor will be preparing the marketing materials while you are preparing the house. So the marketing materials are what we use to get buyers through the door. And kind of the average agent, we in the industry will say, does the 3 Ps. They put a sign in your yard, put it in the multiple listing service, and pray that someone else sells it for you. That's the basics of what a realtor can do as a listing agent. And when you're working with a good realtor, there's a lot more that goes into the process to get the right buyers through the door and to get your home sold for the highest possible price in the least amount of time and the least inconvenience possible. So it starts with those marketing materials, and they should, again, be more than just putting in the MLS and putting a sign in the yard. Our process at Homes by Mason starts with a coming soon stage. We have guidelines that tell us the soonest we can start marketing a property is 21 days before our list date. And so we take advantage of that time period, and we have a plan in place where we start marketing 21 days before our list date. And we are pushing out information to consumers. We are pushing out information to realtors to let people know that this property is coming on the market. And what we want to do is get people lined up at the door, right? So we don't want to just go live and then wait for people to find it. We want people to know about it before it's on the market. And open houses is another important way to get buyers through the door. Now, a lot of realtors will tell you that open houses don't work. I hear that. And honestly, I think that's a convenient myth for many realtors. I do open houses all of the time, and I have 2 beautiful kids and a wonderful husband at home who I would love to spend more time with on the weekends. However, my job as a realtor is to get the most people through my listings as possible, and open houses help accomplish that. Most people start searching online, and what do next? They start going to open houses. So in my opinion and in my experience, open houses do work, especially when done the right way, which includes marketing those open houses well. So, and also open houses are not limited to only Sundays. So we, on the first weekend a home is on the market, we do open houses Saturday and Sunday. And then also we actually will often do a neighbor's open house on the Thursday before it goes on the market as well. So we take advantage of opening the doors to get people through the house. After people see the home, it doesn't stop there. Okay, so if people aren't giving us an offer right away, we are following up and asking for feedback. Asking these buyers, are they interested in the property? And if not, why not? If there is something that people are seeing that we didn't see, or if there is something that people don't like about a property, we want to know about that sooner rather than later and be able to make changes quickly. So getting that follow-up and feedback is also critically important that a realtor should be doing for you. And then reviewing offers. So once we do get offers in, so a realtor could just pass the contract to you and say, here you go, right? And there are some realtors who do that. Here's the contract, what do you want to do? A good realtor is going to first review that offer with a fine-tooth comb, looking at not only the price, but also the terms, and explaining to you the pros and cons of that offer. And also screening that offer in two ways. The realtor who presented the offer and the lender who has pre-qualified the buyer are two critical players in this process of getting to closing. And they're not all the same. There is a difference in realtors and there is a difference in lenders. And so a good listing agent is going to check the experience of a realtor. We have access to do that, and call a lender and ask about the pre-qualification and ask about their experience to make sure that we are working with professionals who will be able to get the job done well and as expected. And again, negotiate the best price and terms. We'll talk about negotiating here shortly. So in terms of what applies on both sides for buying and selling, a realtor should always be looking out for your best interest, okay? And time is of the essence in real estate. And so as realtors, we are essentially on call 24 hours a day. Again, that is not the fun, sexy part of our job. However, it is a reality that real estate does not stop for me and my family. So we do have to be available around the clock, and you want to make sure that you're working with a realtor who is available to you nights and weekends as well. And so again, on the either buying or selling, what happens when you get under contract to get to closing, that's where I talked about earlier that there's lots of potholes and pitfalls that you could fall into between contract and closing. And so your realtor should not disappear. And I have known, in fact, the first time I bought a home before I was a realtor, my realtor just disappeared after we were under contract and I had no idea what was happening. This is a very critical part of the process where your realtor or your realtor's team should be in communication with all parties to the contract regularly to make sure that everyone is doing what they need to do as expected on time to get to an on-time closing. And also a realtor is going to coordinate inspections for you on either side and make sure that, again, you have a trusted home inspector if you need that, and pest inspector and things like that, and make sure that everyone's schedule coordinates. Again, there's multiple people involved, the buyer, the realtor, and the inspectors, coordinating all of those steps to the piece. You don't need to do that. Sometimes, people will say, do I need to schedule a pest inspection? No, a good realtor is going to manage that for you. Advise you through the negotiations. Again, not just pass you the contract and say, what do you want to do? But evaluate the offers and advise you in terms of what they think a good response would be based upon their experience. So also a good realtor is going to keep in touch after closings. We at Homes of Mason, you'll hear me talk about this later, it's such an intimate experience to help people buy or sell a home. And so it feels like family. And we at Homes of Mason do feel like a family, and we treat our clients like family. And so when the deal is done, we don't want to lose touch, and we want to keep in touch. And again, especially because of that trusted vendor piece, our clients always have access to us and our trusted vendors even after closing. And any questions about real estate at any time, a good realtor should be available to answer questions for you and your colleagues or friends whenever you have questions. So the negotiating piece, that's a big part of this process, right? So buying or selling, you want to have a good negotiator working for you. How will you know, or what are the pieces to a good negotiator? A good negotiator understands the wants and needs of both parties, right? So if they're working for you, they want to know your wants and needs, and they want to try to find out what are the wants and needs of the other side. They're always going to be trying to get to a win-win solution, and you can only do that when you know what are the wants and needs. And so therefore, to find that out from the other side, a realtor needs to ask the right questions. So they're going to be going through the other party's realtor and asking these questions. And knowing what questions to ask. So for example, how quickly, if it's a buyer talking to a listing agent, when do your clients want to move? Where are they moving to? Do they need to stay in the home after closing? What's important to your clients in a contract? These are the types of questions that your realtor should be asking the other realtor in order to be able to negotiate well for you and write you opening contract. So in negotiating, it sometimes will be uncomfortable and challenging. And so you do want to have a realtor who can and will be comfortable having difficult conversations. That's going to be a sign of a good negotiator. And someone who's able to think outside the box. So it's not just about price in real estate. That certainly is one of the most important pieces, but there are terms to the contract as well that matter. And so when we have a client who, perhaps reaches their max on price, but really wants the home, then we're going to think outside the box and discuss other strategies and other ways that we can help make their offer strong. That is not just about the price. A good negotiator is going to know when to walk away. So sometimes negotiations just stall out. And so a good negotiator will, a good realtor will advise you that, the other side doesn't seem like they're budging anymore. And if you have hit the end of your limit, then a good realtor is going to walk away. They should not be thinking about their commission. They should be thinking again about you and your best interests. So ultimately, a good realtor is going to get you the best deal, either save you money when you're purchasing or make you money on the listing side. So you want to, really screen your realtors, right? It's one of the biggest financial transactions of your life. So take it seriously and screen for these things. And we're going to talk about questions to ask here shortly. I wanted to touch on when you're moving out of the area, what to expect from your realtor. A lot of people don't realize that we as realtors, again, network not only locally, but also throughout the country and internationally. So we can help identify and help find you a good realtor outside the area. Again, you don't have to do the screening yourself. I can do that for you. A good realtor would, put you in contact with other realtors and in fact, get on the phone and call those realtors and ask the questions and give you their opinion as to whether they are a good realtor and a good negotiator. So use your relationships with your local realtors to help you find a good realtor if you're moving out of the area. And if you are moving out of the area and doing 2 transactions at once, so if you're selling a home locally and moving out of the area, a good realtor will want to communicate with the realtor on the other side, in the other location, because there are lots of dominoes that need to fall into place to make sure that you don't end up homeless. And so we know how to talk to each other, and we know the questions to ask and the conversations to have about what's happening in the transaction to make sure that it all goes as expected. So a good realtor is going to offer that, and you should expect them to do that for you if you are moving out of the area. If you're moving into the area and you can't come in person to see things, then everything can be done virtually, and we're even better at doing that now than before. So that buyer consultation that we talked about before can be done virtually. We can and will do virtual showings for you, walk through the home, be your eyes and ears here on the ground, and do video calls for you, right, to show you the property. And if you do decide to buy a home without being here, feet on the ground, we can write a contract using a sight unseen addendum that does say you or a trusted person will get the opportunity to see that house before you do have to follow through on the rest of the contract. So that's an addendum that we can use for you. And then even the home inspection can be done virtually as well. Again, a good realtor will be your eyes and ears on the ground, asking the right questions for you at the home inspection, and having you there virtually to make sure that your questions get answered. So what to look for in your realtor? Bottom line, you want to have a realtor who you can trust, who has the right experience, the right market knowledge, and gets the right results, right? So how will you be able to identify those things? In order to find someone that you can trust, if it's someone that you do already know, or someone who is known by someone that you know, that is a good indication that you will be able to trust them. But don't stop there. I want to really stress that, because I'll even use myself as an example. So the very first time I purchased a property before I was in real estate, I knew someone at my job who was also a realtor part-time. And it didn't occur to me that this person had a full-time job that was not real estate, but it was someone who I knew through work. So there was a trust there. And so I used that person as my realtor to buy my first home. I still have that home because it really was not the best purchase and really hasn't appreciated like it should have. And I think I paid too much for it, honestly, because when I look back now, I don't think that I chose the right realtor for that transaction, but I chose someone that I trusted. So trust is important, but it is not the only end all be all. Start the relationship early, right? So screen realtors early, do those consultations that we talked about early, and then stay in communication. See if the realtor does stay in communication, keep in touch with you, right? Through that longer term relationship, you will then determine whether you can trust this person or not. Check references. That, of course, is another good way to find out if you can trust someone. I give out a list of referrals, right, that people can call, and I say, ask them, does Kristen do what she says she's going to do? Is she, really all of these things that she says? So that's another way that you can see if the realtor is someone that you can trust. So the right experience. Length of time in the business is one thing, but it is not the only thing. So again, that realtor that I referred to, who was a full-time realtor, he had a full-time job and was a part-time realtor. He is, I don't know if he's still a realtor now, but if he is, he's been in the business a really long time, but he hasn't been doing the number of transactions that a full-time realtor does. So it's not only about length of time in the business, that's one thing that you want to ask about, but also how many transactions is the realtor doing? So ask that question, in the past 12 to 24 months, how many transactions have you closed? And ask about the specific transaction that you are doing, because listing a home is a very, very different transaction than helping people buy a home. Like really, they're night and day. So ask specifically how much experience or how many transactions have you done helping buyers buy or helping sellers sell? And then market knowledge. You ideally want a realtor who knows the trends and nuances of your market and, again, your type of transaction, okay? Because they are different. So selling or buying a condo is very different than a detached home. And then there's the luxury market. So these are different types of markets. Again, you want to ideally have a realtor who knows how to work in the type of market that you are going to be buying or selling in. Results. So ask about results. One thing is that listing a home does not equal selling a home. So if a realtor tells you that they've listed so many homes, ask how many they've actually sold. Okay, so if you listed it and didn't sell it, well, that's not a statistic that you want to know. That's not a good result. And so the types of statistics that I track, that I think most realtors in most areas will be able to track for themselves, are days on market. So when you're selling a home, when you're listing a home, how many days on market does it take for you on average to sell a home as a listing agent? And the sold price to original list price. So how close to the asking price? That is another statistic that I know we can track in our area that probably most realtors are able to track. So those are two important statistics if you're interviewing a realtor to list your home that I would ask about. And if you're working with someone to buy your home, again, that number of, not the statistic of sold price to original asking price can also speak to their negotiating skills, right? So what is their average sold price to original asking price? And hopefully it's lower, right? Hopefully they're negotiating better prices and getting a lower average sold price to original list price than what the average market does. So these are things that we are able to look at, I know, in our MLS that you can ask for. I do want to touch on the difference between an individual realtor and a team. I have been both. So when I started in the industry, I was an individual realtor, and now I have a small team. So there are pros and cons to both, in my opinion. As an individual realtor, if you are doing a lot of business and if you are doing everything yourself, you get stretched very, very thin. And it will be hard to have the right energy to do everything at a high level for your clients as an individual realtor with no help or support doing a lot of business. So I don't think that is a good equation, honestly. And again, when I started doing a lot of business, I realized that, again, I was getting stretched so thin and my quality of work was going down. So that was when I decided that I wanted to get support. So if you're going to work with an individual realtor, ask that question and find out if they have administrative and marketing support. If they do, then they're not going to be stretched as thin. And also ask the question about how many clients do they carry, right? So as an individual agent, I would say 5 is manageable. More than that, and again, you know, there may be some mitigating factors there, but point is that obviously if an individual agent has lots and lots of clients, they're not going to be able to give you the attention that they need. Now with a team, again, I think one of the benefits of working with a team is that there are different people in different roles who are able to specialize in what they do, which I think is great for the client. So having a buyer specialist means that you have an agent who focuses specifically on working with buyers. As I mentioned before, a listing transaction and a buyer transaction are very, very different. So I think it's great if you can work with a buyer specialist when you are looking to buy a home and work with a listing specialist when you are listing a home. I think that's ideal. And so teams often do have those different roles. And then the administrative piece, you know, again, they're on a team. Ideally, people will be able to focus in their wheelhouse and do a great job for the team in their role. How big is the team is a question that I would ask, because I think that the bigger the team gets, the less in touch the lead agent is possibly with what's going on the ground level. So for me, as an agent with a small team, I know everything that is going on with all of my team members, and I am in very close contact with everything, every transaction, and every part of every transaction. And so I am able to make sure that the quality that we expect at Homes by Mason is delivered to our clients because we are small. In a bigger team, of course, you know,
The intimacy goes away.
You might lose some quality for quantity there.
Mm-hmm.
So all agents, as I discussed earlier, should provide you that consultation that we talked about at no cost and no obligation, and they should be able to do it either in person or virtually. Whoops. And at that consultation, the realtor should be able to talk with you about what makes them different than other realtors. So that's another question that I would ask is, how are you different than the average realtor? What do you do differently? And at Homes by Mason, so this is an example that we definitely, our tagline is actually, you know, there's a difference in realtors and it matters. And so we can point to, and these are pictures here of some of the examples and some of the ways that we do things differently than other realtors. So if a realtor does things differently, they should have examples to show you of what they do differently. So again, ask to see those examples. Don't just take their word for it. And how they work with you. is another important factor. And this is another way that at Homes by Mason, we say that we are different because, as I mentioned, we treat our clients like family. We do this because we care. And we treat every transaction as if it was our own personal transaction. We want to get the best deal for our clients because we would want that for ourselves. So there are some realtors who are just transactional, who just, it's more about their commission than it is about doing the right thing for the client. Unfortunately, that's the reality. And so, again, you want to interview realtors to try to ascertain how they're going to work with you and how they're different. So I've touched on these. Here's just kind of a list of some questions that you could ask. I think I've mentioned all of these, but I do point out here, don't be shy. This is an important decision with significant financial implications. You are going to be selling or purchasing probably your biggest financial asset. So do an interview of realtors and ask important questions. So in which neighborhoods or areas do you specialize? How many listings or buyers, right? Remember the transaction that you're doing. Have you closed, not just worked with in the past 12 months? What are your statistics? As we talked about, average days on market or percent sold price to original list price. What do you do beyond putting a sign in the yard and putting it on the MLS when you're selling a home? Do you guarantee your services? Some realtors do have guarantees. So ask about that and make sure that you understand what the guarantee is. Ask for references of past clients, and again, specific to your type of transaction and or your market, so that you can try to get a realtor with the right market knowledge for you. And that is what I have prepared for tonight. So I know we had some technical difficulties, and so our participants tonight were having a hard time with the microphone. I'll give it a minute to see if we get any questions that come through on chat or text. And
I'm just waiting for Mary. Mary might respond with a question here. I also appreciate Kristen mentioning this aspect about the admin team. It's kind of like, having a doctor. I've had great doctors in the past, but their staff, I just couldn't get past. I mean, their staff was just very poor service. So if you have a staff that's supporting that doctor that is not adequate, it is not up to snuff with what's expected in caring for a patient, or if you have a physician that you're looking into, what kind of surgeries is he doing? Does he do them every day? How many surgeries does he do? It's the same thing. I compare it to a realtor. So I really appreciate you mentioning the staff.
I think those are great points, Rebecca. Thank you for sharing that. Really great points and good comparisons there. So, all right. So do we have
Mary
any questions?
Yeah, Mary said that this was a very comprehensive seminar that we've offered. So she had no questions.
Okay, great. And so, yes, it was a lot of information, I know, and that's kind of why I wanted to get through it, to make sure I got all the information out in a somewhat reasonable amount of time. I know it's a little bit long, but again, as I said in the beginning, this is a really important topic. So, buying or selling your biggest financial asset is not something that you should take lightly. And again, like I said, while you might know someone that you trust who's a realtor, I would advise not just stopping there, right? There are a lot of other factors to consider besides just that trust factor. Trust is important, but there are a lot of other pieces that are important as well. And so hopefully this gave you a fuller picture of what things to look for, what to expect in your realtor, and what things to look for, and how to identify those things in a realtor. So,
and if you had any questions afterwards, you're more than, welcome to send them to, me at We Do More at Homes by Mason, or just email Kristen.
Right.
We'll get right back with you.
Yep. Here's my contact information. It's a little on there, but down in the bottom in here.
Oh, at the bottom. Yes.
Yep. So that's my phone number and our main email address. So these, when you reach out to either one of those you will actually either get Rebecca or me. So we have it set up on our team where if I'm not available, then Rebecca hopefully will get the call or get the email and be able to respond even if I'm not available. So we have it set up that way. So we really appreciate you joining us and hope that we were able to be helpful to you. And again, even after this, right, if you do have questions, do not hesitate to contact us. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording now.